In 1954 to today, the mission remains to inspire financial wellness and give you a financially fit lifestyle. Alive Credit Union and its employees are committed to not only serving their valued members, but also our community here in Northeast Florida. I had a chance to see that commitment firsthand as Alive partnered with our Action Sports Jacks 24/7 team to bring you Armada men's and women's soccer broadcasts. Inside the 18, it is a shot, and it's a goal! Chloe Chivers! And that connection to the community continues with Alive Credit Union's support of the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville. Alive Credit Union's commitment to our community also involves serving the financial needs of all first responders through the recent merger partnership with City and Police Federal Credit Union. Join the community and become a member of Alive Credit Union today. Find out the many ways you can be inspired in financial wellness at alivecu.coop.
Most of us know how to throw. But you need to know what to throw. I'm not talking about footballs, baseballs, softballs. We're talking about those items you need to recycle. Republic Services explains it easy. Recycling simplified. 1. Know what to throw. When in doubt, throw it out. 2. Empty, clean, and dry those materials. It takes an extra minute, but it makes a big difference. And 3. Don't bag it. This makes the recycling process faster and more efficient. This is a look at the Republic Services North Florida Recycling Center. You can make this process even more efficient. By utilizing those 3 steps, Republic Services can help you become a better recycler in your home. Learn more at recyclingsimplified.com.
If you look good, you feel good. And the medical professionals here at Ponte Vedra Vein and Aesthetics are here to make you feel your best. I'm on camera every week, and I have a confession to make. I'm not always confident in my appearance. Can you see my dark circles? Is my makeup highlighting my fine lines instead of covering them up? I question it all. So when I found out about the wide variety of procedures here at Ponte Vedra Vein and Aesthetics, I knew help was just one appointment away. Medical Director Dr. Megan Deacon Casey and her board-certified physicians have been using the latest in cutting-edge technology for the last 10 years, giving men and women their personal confidence boost. From Botox, fillers, Morpheus 8, and so much more. The hardest part was figuring out what I needed. Thankfully, the medical team walked me through what would work best for me through a free consultation. Come look and feel your best with the team here at Ponte Vedra Vein and Aesthetics. Visit them at one of their 2 locations, either over in Ponte Vedra or on the south side.
In the club tonight, we have a bunch of winners. Almost 100 of you already hanging out with us live on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 channel as we celebrate a 25-3 victory over those hated Tennessee Titans. Why does it feel like more of a workman's-like approach, just another business trip, not just any other trip to Nashville? Nah, who are we kidding? As much as the Jaguars dominated this from wire to wire, the hating-ass Jags are back. We've got the quotes. We've got the comments. I think we may get a Brent Martineau sighting fresh off the plane from Nash Vegas. A whole lot to do here on this fine Sunday edition of Club 904. Welcome to a Sunday post-game edition of Club 904. I am your host, Mia O'Brien. Thanks so much for hanging out with us late night here on a Sunday to wrap up your Thanksgiving weekend and to put the finishing touches on a 25-3 scoregami victory over those hated Tennessee Titans for your hometown Big Cats. And as some of you have already reminded me in the comments, on a day in which we celebrate the anniversary of Jacksonville getting an NFL team. That came all the way back 32 plus years ago. And now here we are, a team that reminds us of so many of those great Jaguar teams before, between a defense that is ferocious, a defense that has no issue mouthing off. Ditto to their punter. Let's not bury the lead here, folks. As we wait for Brent Martineau to join us, we're on standby for Brent since he's coming back from Nashville. We're going to get to some of the great work that he and Marcel Robinson were able to put together, boots on the ground up in Nash Vegas. But let's not, I can't even bury it because we have to get to this. These quotes. For those of you who are listening to this on demand on audio, I apologize if this is bad radio. I will recite them for you. Thank you to Dan Griffiths for putting these together. This about sums up what happened at Nissan Stadium today. The first back-to-back road victories for the Jaguars against the Titans since 2004 to 2005. According to Julius Chestnut of the Titans, Logan Cook, quote, told him that he came up to me and said he was going to kill me. For anyone who has met a God-fearing hunter, father of three, Logan Cook, the thought of him saying the words he was going to kill me shocked me. But if you watched today's game, you saw Logan Cook had a look in his eyes, man, that I can't wait to ask him about in the locker room this week, because I don't know what got into him, and I don't know what got into his tag team partner, Ross Matisic, either, because they really looked like a tag team straight out of AEW. Note, I said AEW, not that other wrestling company, and had a nice little throwdown action going on. Neither was ejected. Only one player was ejected, and he was a member of the Tennessee Titans. So hey, it's all good. Then there was the LaQuint Allen of it all. This is becoming a regular segment here on Club 904. Apparently, LaQuint Allen, who checks in at, I believe, about 5'9" on the roster, stood over Jeffrey Simmons, regarded as one of the best three techniques in the National Football League, a man who's about 6'6", and said, quote, "Suck my bleep." It's very on par for LaQuint Allen, unlike Logan Cook, where maybe it was a little bit out of character. And then also in the Niners-Browns game, there was some weird stuff going on. And you couple that with the Lane Kiffin of it all. What a wild weekend it was in the world of football. And we're here to recap all of it, but specifically when it comes to your Jacksonville Jaguars. A great day was had for the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, especially in that first half. Our friend Gus Logue of Duval 22, noting that 156.5 passer rating, a career high in a single half today. Previous high was 152.1 against the Patriots in London last year. TL16 finishing 16 of 27 for 229 yards, 2 TDs, 0 turnovers, a QBR of 111.5, an average completion of 8.5 yards. We're going to talk about Trevor Lawrence airing it downfield, pushing the ball, and utilizing verticality of this offensive structure a little bit later in the program. And of course, just to put a bow on our opening segment, yes, if the season was to end today, your Jacksonville Jaguars would be the top team in the AFC South. They would be the number 3 overall team in the AFC playoff picture. They would host, wait for it, the Los Angeles Chargers at Everbank Stadium. Where have I heard that one before? On Wild Card Weekend. And what a wild game this one was. And that's why we're excited to talk to you guys about it for the next hour here on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 channel. We want to hear from you, whether it's on Twitter, if it's on Twitch, if it's on YouTube. I'll read your comments. Dell's already cracking up at the thumbnail that I put together on YouTube. Hey, listen, the Hayden Nash Jags are back is what I've been told. I was not here in 2017, only here in the 22 playoff run. But I've been told that we're seeing some shades of that. This idea of, number one, and I'll give this comp because it is relevant given that I was here for it. Back in 2022, we all knew, including Doug Peterson with his little crystal ball, that the season would come down to that Week 18 matchup between the Jaguars and the Titans. However, to get to that meeting, the Jaguars had to go through 2 bottom feeders in the standings, in the New York Jets and the Houston Texans, following a dramatic win over the Dallas Cowboys. And this game today against the Titans in Nashville, which speaks to just how far that franchise has fallen off since Mike Vrabel's departure. This felt like that Jets game. The weather not so great at the start. The sun did eventually come out, unlike that game at MetLife Stadium in December of 2022. But for the Jaguars, it was all business. It wasn't pretty. There were moments where you said, wow, okay, I can see what this offense can do. It's one or two drives that basically put the game out of hand. But the reality was this was a business trip. You get in, you get out, you get the dub, you're on to the next. And then the next week, that's how it felt like in Houston. I can't guarantee for you it's going to feel like that way next week because next week's a big one. It is arguably the biggest game in franchise history. Yes, there, I said it. I already tweeted it out. I can't wait to hear from so many of you, whether it's here on Club 904 or for those of you who subscribe to the O'Brien NFL Notebook, or if you follow me on Twitter at Mia O'Brien TV. When you lament, when Executive Vice President of Football Operations, Tony Boselli, says this is the biggest game in franchise history, and you all start yelling about the 90s and 2017 and 2007, and James Gladstone wasn't even in middle school in 1998. I don't think he was in elementary school because he's 2 years older than me. Liam Cohen was not coaching in the National Football League, barely was coaching in college in 2007. In 2022, both of those men were employed by the Los Angeles Rams. In 2017, Liam Cohen hadn't even gotten to the National Football League. He was still coaching at the University of Maine as the offensive coordinator. And so I say all that to say, they were not here. They are not burdened. And I've already said this on multiple podcasts and I've said it online, but I want to lead off tonight's show while we wait for Brent. And before I get to your first round of comments by saying this, none of these men, outside of Tony, which Tony was not in the role that he's in now, none of these men are burdened by what occurred previously. I know that there are those of you out there in the fan base who are triggered by these moments. You want to go back to, well, we were 8-5 in 2006 or not 2006. Sorry, 2006 was a good year. 8-5 in 2009, and then it all fell apart. We finished 8-8, and then 2010 we were 7-5. Okay. James Gladstone graduated high school in 2009. I don't think he's thinking about what occurred and what may have cursed this franchise back when he was still 18 years old. And I don't think Liam Cohen is thinking about that because he had just wrapped up a career at UMass at that point in time. And so my point is that I want you, much like the folks at the Miller Electric Center want you, to start thinking like what occurred for the past 32 years. While it's important and it's part of your history and it's important to respect and pay homage to your history, it does not dictate where your future lies. And that is how this Jaguars team is operating right now. They are not thinking about what happened 2 years ago when they collapsed after an 8-3 record, just like they're not thinking about, oh my goodness, do I play on an Indian burial ground that ensures that we will never get to a Super Bowl? Some of you think like that out there. And I just want to remind you that today was an example that this team is not burdened by that. They refuse to think like that because their head coach and their executives refuse to let them think like that. Let's see who's hanging out here in Club 904 on this fine Sunday. And of course, we are on standby. Brent Martineau, I think, is going to show up at some point in time. He and Marcel Robinson did a great job getting some sound bites from your favorite Jaguars. You'll hear from them throughout the course of this podcast. Yes, thank you to Trevor, King of the South, first of his name, for hanging out with us on Twitter. First place indeed. Do not let Albert Breer's tweet scare you. The Jaguars control their own destiny. The Houston Texans do not. Hef is always hanging out in the chat. I can't wait to hear what Hef has to say about the offensive line blocking, because at times it left something to be desired, but I also think that the Wyatt Milam fan club is celebrating tonight that at the very least the third round pick got onto the field. Nitro, wondering about Parker Washington updates. I do not have any at this time. Perhaps Brent does when he joins Club 904 here at some point here in the next hour. Yes, screw the Titans. Agreed. As I go on this diatribe about how they are not affected by what has been, they are focused on the next game at a time. I do think, as is exhibited by some of those quotes and as is exhibited by some of the actions on the field, they may be a new bunch of Jaguars, but they hate the Titans just as much as you do, which is a good thing. Shipley called LeQuint an angry bird. I have called him a werewolf. I would agree with that. Yes. There's a lot of names for LeQuint, but he is wonderful. And I think he is a great microcosm. And Liam Cohen has told the broadcast crew that each of the last two broadcast crews that the Jaguars television broadcasts have had, that if he could have 53 LeQuint Allens, that is what the goal is for the Jacksonville Jaguars in terms of how LeQuint Allen carries himself during the week, in terms of the alpha energy, in terms of the spark he brings, the 110% effort, and also that he's crazy in the best way possible. Yes, Ether Dark, Ross was about to go to war today. I was a little concerned, especially considering Ross Matisic did exit this game with a back injury. and then was suplexing a guy about 2 hours later. So I guess he's okay. I don't have an official update, but that's good. A couple of you guys are wondering about Anton Harrison. Hey, Harrison told Key to get out of town. And then somebody else wanted to talk about the Harrison penalties. Yes, Anton did have a pre-snap penalty, as did Robert Hainsey. I was a little surprised to see both of those. The Jaguars, 13 penalties for 98 yards. Definitely something we can talk about in the club tonight. It's definitely a talking point moving forward, because after 2 weeks of cutting back on those penalties, they had one from Robert Hainsey on the first play from scrimmage on offense today and set them back. And immediately it was a failed, doomed offensive drive, essentially from the get-go. And so I think that, yes, the penalties are going to have to be something that they clean up, because it continues to put them behind the 8 ball. And against a lesser team like the Titans, it's okay. They can make that work. It's not going to happen against a greater opponent, whether that's the Indianapolis Colts next week or if it's a team in the postseason, so long as the Jaguars do indeed get there. Yes, insert weekly angst for offensive line coach. Roberts, oh, yes. Justin Herbert does have a broken bone in his left hand. So if the season were to end today, unclear if the Jaguars would be facing Justin Herbert, who told reporters post-game he is planning to planning to operate as if he is playing next Monday on Monday Night Football, despite the fact that he will have surgery tomorrow. CVL, unsung hero, could not agree more, Robert. We're going to talk about Cole Van Lannon and how on earth can the Jaguars possibly keep him under contract next year, because he is a free agent after this season. And I think that as much as Jacoby Myers and re-signing him should be objective number one for James Gladstone this offseason, from what I even had a conversation with somebody around the league with a little bit earlier, offensive line is a focus. And in turn, I hope it's Cole Van Lannon, because he already knows the staff, he knows the scheme, he knows the regime. Yep, amen to that, Robert. The regime does not care. Look at you all. See, this makes me so happy. Don't piss on the present living in the past. Yet the prince has, I love this. You will not be bothered by what has been. The staff and the regime does not care. We do not. See, you're all getting it. I appreciate you guys. And there's 60 of you hanging out on YouTube right now, plus another 300 or so on Twitter and Twitch. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on the Action Sports Jacks Network. 2 more before we take our first break. Then we're going to get to my big things. And at some point in time, Brent Martineau is going to join us here live on the podcast. This is from Robert. This game proved that they weren't looking ahead to the Colts. They were locked in, focused on beating the Titans. Amen to that. And then little big man, Trevor's passer rating today was 111. First time all season he is above 100. And I would agree with those of you who also noted in the chat the footwork for Trevor, which looked as good as it's looked all season long. For whatever the reason, everything came together today. And that was despite the Jaguars rushing for just 70 yards on the ground. So I understand lesser opponent, field position was part of it, although you had field position that was partially being dictated by your nose tackle being your long snapper and snapping it all over the field, which you're going to hear from Devon, who I think is the hero of the game. I'd give Devon the game ball, even though it wasn't pretty. It was gritty. Got it done. That's the mantra of this team. Get the quarter zips ready, Foye. I will gladly buy one. And I think that it proved that this team, yes, they can find ways to win football games even when they cannot run the ball, because while Trevor Lawrence, much improved today, the identity of this team, until proven otherwise, will be to run the football and be strong in the trenches. And even on a day in which they couldn't operate at the peak performance of that run game, the fact that they were able to do what they did speaks to they are a multifaceted offense. Even if Liam, even at halftime, said to Aditi, he was like, yeah, we got to run the football better. This is not good. So they know what they have to do next week against those Indianapolis Colts. Let's take our first break. When we come back, we may hear from Brent Martineau. We may not. We may be getting to my quick hits, my big notes, takeaways from this game that was. And of course, we'll answer more of your questions. Plus, you'll hear from inside the Jaguars locker room coming up next here on Club 904 on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 channel.
If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit. When you hear that, you think Bono's Pit Barbecue, a staple in Northeast Florida now for 75 years. A place that feels like home with friendly service. A meeting place for friends, family, or business occasions. On the menu, the corn nuggets are a favorite in our house, but there's something for everyone. Sandwiches, platters, salads, sides, desserts, and family feasts. You see Bono's all over the place in Northeast Florida. You know, there are almost 20 locations in the Jacksonville area now, so stop on by, sit down, and dine in with Bono's. You can also take it to go. There are drive-thrus in many of the locations. And they have delivery options too. Just download the Bono's app to make things easy. I signed up for the loyalty program, and you can too, to get special offers. If Jacksonville is home, few things feel more Jacksonville than Bono's Pit Barbecue. Celebrate 75 years and many more to come. Bono's Pit Barbecue. If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
Choose your own adventure. It's not just a saying, but a way of life here at Cycles of Jacksonville. And whether it's 2 wheels or 4 wheels, at Cycles of Jacksonville, a great adventure awaits. With brands like Honda, Vespa, Segway, and Triumph, Cycles of Jacksonville has you covered with their inventory featuring a 60,000 square foot building. If 4 wheels is more your thing, check out the largest selection of Honda Talons in the entire county. No matter what you're looking for, Cycles of Jacksonville is going to have the selection you need, all with great financing and rebates. Plus, if you're active duty military, Cycles of Jacksonville will offer you 0% financing along with great discounts for military and first responders. And when you want to get off the road and set sail, Cycles of Jacksonville has you covered with everything you need to get on the water. So if you're ready for a great adventure, let Cycles of Jacksonville be your guide. Located off Atlantic Boulevard, or check out their website at cyclesofjacksonville.com.
Nobody but Nimnicht. Our family has purchased 6 vehicles from Nimnicht Buick GMC. The #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville has lots of inventory to choose from with their best price guarantee. Who gives you top dollar for your trade? Nobody but Nimnicht. Save up to $10,000 off select new GMC Sierras or get rates as low as 1.9%. You know, I'm a truck guy. GMC Sierra, my trim level is an SLT. This one's an Elevation. Pretty good looking color as well. So here at Nimnicht Buick GMC, you have a lot to pick from. My father-in-law, he drives this, an Enclave, so I feel like that GMC in the family. 2025 is coming around the corner, which means it's almost time to close out those 2024s this summer. You can schedule a test drive at nimnichtbuickgmc.com, and while you're there, check your trade value and customize your payment options. Nimnicht is there for you, even on Sundays. So, who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? The answer's simple. Nobody but Nimnicht. Your friends in the car business since 1941. GMC, we are professional grade.
Welcome back into a Sunday edition of Club 904. We appreciate the nearly 400 of you hanging out with us live here on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 channel. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to their various channels, whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, subscribe, follow on X, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you may be consuming this content from, because we appreciate them hosting Club 904 on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. I'm getting a lot of word from people on the personal line as well as on the YouTube chat. Everybody's wondering about Sauce Gardner. I'm guessing the news just came out. I know he met with reporters and he said that he thinks that it's an Achilles strain, not an Achilles tear. Jordan Schultz reporting 58 minutes ago, just what Sauce said. So if you guys have an official, here we go. Yes. Okay. So Tom Pelissero did say it's a calf strain. The Achilles is intact. There is optimism he avoided a major injury. If anyone saw it from any of my friends over at ESPN or NFL Network, please send that our way, because we'd love to verify if he is indeed already out for Sunday's game against your Jacksonville Jaguars, especially because I also just saw a couple betting lines out there that have the Jaguars as 1.5-point underdogs at home. It has now been said, I think, on every major network today, the Jaguars have not lost to the Colts at home in 10 years. There's a lot of you who don't want to say that because you don't want to jinx it, and respect to that, even though we already let off with, we are not being burdened by what has been. In the same vein, respect, this is not your grandmother's Colts team. We also said that about the 2021 Colts, and then Carson Wentz was denied his attempt at a comeback postseason bid alongside Frank Reich, but that's a story for another time. I'm going to let you guys hear from the head coach of your Jacksonville Jaguars, Liam Cohen. I ultimately decided, and Brent and I were texting about this, you're going to hear from Logan Cook a little bit later in the program, but we're not going to play some of the sound from the Titans locker room, even though it was hilarious about some of the things that were said. Here is the head coach, though, on his punter and his long snapper getting involved in some extracurriculars during a Jaguars 25-3.
A little smarter there on the one where he got hit on, but there were some frustrations that were being built up with them, rushing us the way they were with the, the long snapper issue. And we thought like that we maybe were roughed or potentially roughed at one point. I think, I don't know if it got called or not, but, it was just, Proud of those guys for competing, but we got to continue to be smarter.
Coach, 6 targets for Jacoby Myers and 6 catches. Talk about him again, just showing up big and just hitting on some big plays. And even Brian Thomas first came back, knocking a guy out on the block in the open field.
I know, and then a huge third down conversion on a drive that we went down and scored on. So, obviously we'd like to continue to give BT more as he's getting healthier. But Jacoby just so consistent, and then his ability in the middle of the field to then catch and run, losing Parker for a little bit. Obviously, guys had to step up, and Jacoby just keeps being that dude. I mean, in terms of the way that he competes, the way that he prepares, and the trust level between he and the quarterback has continued to go forward. Excuse me.
Big game next week, Coach. What is your message to the fans? To try to lock that stadium down and pack it out.
Yeah, we need everybody. We need the city to show up, and support us, and because we want to make them proud. We're continuing to try to put a product on the field that our city and community can be proud of, and that's something that means a lot to our team. It means a lot to our players, and we want to continue to do that. So as much support as we can get from Duval, that would be huge.
You heard the man. Make sure you pack the bank if you weren't already planning on being out there on Sunday. Because as I'm sure you will be told on Jaguars HQ, and as we've already discussed tonight here on Club 904, it is the biggest game in franchise history up to this point. Let's hit some quick hits, if you may. I didn't have a quick hits on my Mo Bryan NFL notebook since I was not up in Nash Vegas for this game. Shout out to the Ospreys, by the way. I had a couple of Osprey UNF basketball play-by-play assignments this weekend, and so was back here in Duval, but excited to be at the bank this upcoming Sunday, which a little bit of a news break. Bird on the call. You guys know what to do with that information. Unfortunately, that means JJ Watt will be here too, but that's okay. We like JJ. Also just got word from Brent Martineau that he will be here in about 5 minutes. And so we will be awaiting Brent Martineau in about 5 minutes. And I will tell him right now, yes, that works. Beautiful. The awesomeness of live podcasting. My big takeaways when it came to this Jaguars 25-3 victory over those hated Tennessee Titans. Number one, I already hinted at it. Yes, you need to re-sign Jacoby Myers. I think that needs to be priority number one. But as I've already heard some rumblings tonight from a couple of different league sources, offensive line is a focal point for James Gladstone this offseason. So for those of you in the chat right now that are panicking about this offensive line, I've seen it on the timeline as well. He's not saying it, but don't worry. Back in his mind, your general manager is already trying to plot what he can do along that offensive front. And I think re-signing Cole Van Lanen needs to be among those priority moves. The problem is that with the versatility and what he has put on tape, there's going to be teams that are going to throw a boatload at him. And because of what I believe should be a concerted effort to bring back Devin Lloyd and potentially Travis Etienne, depending on how you view the running back position and how you view Devin Lloyd down the stretch here in the critical 5 games that remain in the 2025 season, you're not going to have the tag to play with. You could certainly throw the hometown discount. Cole loves playing here. He loves the guys on this team. He loves the opportunity to play. But if he gets an offer on the open market to be a starting left tackle and make middle of the market money at the position, that's going to be a hard thing for him to say no to and move elsewhere, especially a guy from the Midwest if one of those Midwestern teams approaches him. And so I think that that's really going to be critical for the Jaguars this offseason, and I think you saw that even more so today. I know Hef in the chat was questioning whether they should have moved Cole Van Lanen to left tackle when Walker Little went into the concussion protocol, or if they should have left him and moved Wyatt Milam to left tackle. I have been told by people at the Miller Electric Center, Wyatt Milam is a guard. He is a guard. And while I've also heard rumblings of, he's also looked okay at tackle. No, I have been told he is a guard. And so that is why he was the de facto. It was going to be either him or Jonah Monheim. I think, and again, I don't want to speak for the coaching staff, but in the back of their mind, they're probably like, well, we may need Jonah to snap at some point here, depending on how the Devon project goes with him filling in for Ross Matisic. So probably need to save him on the sidelines and keep him upright and fresh. And so we will throw Wyatt Milam out there. I haven't watched the tape back from all 22 because it's not available yet, but I'll tell you this. I didn't think he looked bad. And at times it looked like they were even running behind him. And I know, again, that run game only had 70 yards today. It's tough sledding against Tavondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons, just a fact. But I do think that he looked okay. I didn't think he was a problem. Maybe on second watch, I will feel that way. So the Myers of it all, according to Next Gen Stats, 5 receptions, 82 yards, and that touchdown. Jacoby Myers had 6 total catches in this game for 90 yards, so he had one outbreaking 8-yard catch. Everything else was across the middle of the field, especially after Parker Washington exited this game. And to those of you asking in the chat, no, I do not have an update. Maybe Brent does when he joins us here in a couple of minutes. I think that what Jacoby Myers has done, and Matt Ryan did a great job on CBS during the postgame show describing this. What he is doing is exactly what you saw, that cast of characters in the original McVay offense that Liam Cohen was a part of, that 2018 second Sean McVay staff. What you saw from those receivers, not just the blocking, which then became in vogue after McVay said, you're all going to block. I don't care. You're wide receivers, but you're going to line up as if you're an inline blocker. And here we are. Not that part of it. The idea of identifying soft spots in a zone and clearing out for underneath routes and also for over-the-top go routes. That is what you are seeing. I loved the play calling by Liam Cohen to go back-to-back with that Parker Washington slide and grab and a similar concept on the very next play to Jacoby Myers, except that time Parker Washington's the clear out. That's the type of play calling that this team was missing under Press Taylor. That is what, when I said on the radio and I said on podcasts, that you either got it or you don't. It's a feel thing. You either recognize, okay, I'm going to hit him with the same exact concept, but the roles are reversed. Like, if you can't identify that sort of pattern and have that nuanced understanding and you just want to run cool play after cool play, like, that's awesome. But at some point in time, you need to look at this as an orchestra as opposed to just a 2 or 3 horn band and the drums and the timpani and all that is just secondary. I'm going to hit pause on my takeaways and we'll get back to those here in a little bit because we do have here fresh off the plane from Nash Vegas, the one and only Brent Martineau is here. And Brent, let me make sure you're in the chat. Hold on. Let me remove myself. Let's go here. There we go. And now we're going to get Brent in here. There he is. All righty, we got Brent Martineau in the chat from the home studio. 2 home studios here going dueling cameras. How are you, sir? Hopefully a smooth flight back from Nashville. And we already hit some of the quotes in text form that came out of both the Jaguars and the Titans locker room. Did Logan Cook get the explanation that he wanted to from the officials?
Yeah, I think he did, or at least he got the call a little bit later for it. Logan Cook ended up explaining that he thought he was rude to the official. And, when he threw his helmet down after the one he didn't get. So then at halftime, he decided to go up and make amends with the official and kind of apologize. And I think that might have worked in his favor because he got the other roughing call after that. So a little different vibe and language in the Tennessee locker room compared to the Jags locker room. There's some wild stuff coming out of Tennessee. But hey, I don't think we should be surprised at Logan Cook. He's a heck of an athlete. He's a big guy. He's not your normal punter, I say. But also, he's tough. We've seen him lay some people out. I'm sure you've already brought it up, but last couple of years, he can really lay the wood on some tackles and not afraid to do so. And I think Liam Cohen would like to see him avoid that in the future because that could have been really a big blow to the Jags if he goes down for the rest of that game and maybe longer.
Yeah, especially when you consider that then the long snapper had a back injury in the first half, but then he comes back out in the second half and he's suplexing guys, as I've already referenced now twice here tonight. So I'm guessing when you were in the locker room, both Ross and Logan were available, upright, and doing just A-okay.
Yeah, and that's the other. I did ask Ross because I said, do you think it's going to be a problem going forward? Because that's kind of a strength. We don't see that very often. A guy comes out, misses the whole half from that position specifically. He's had back injuries
before, too. That's where my concern begins.
Yeah, and he's had that. He's battled some things, but he says he's going to be okay. He thinks he's fine coming out of it. So there's good news on that front. And I do think, and maybe this is a little too much, and I don't want to go crazy with it, but you see Ross and Logan mix it up like that. And maybe that does say a little bit something about this football team that preaches physicality, right? And wants edge and all those things that Liam Cohen says. They might have done the same thing a year ago under Doug Peterson, but I think when you sprinkle that all the way through the 53 and you get it from your punter and your long snapper in a game, specifically in a division game against the Tennessee Titans this time of year, I think it kind of says a lot. And I wouldn't be surprised if Liam Cohen plays that part of it up a bit on Monday when he's speaking to the team. I mean, look at these guys. This is what we got to continue to bring. And a lot of other guys are doing that right now too. But I do think there's a little bit of a trickle down. And if I'm the coach of the football team, I actually love seeing it from those guys too, because that's where you don't expect it normally.
If you guys have a question or a comment for Brent, I already know a couple of you guys have already queued up. You're ready to go with questions for Brent since he was just in the locker room up at Nissan Stadium. We will hit those right away before we get some of Brent's takeaways parsed in throughout those responses. But Dell does want you to know, Brent, I will pay the fine if you play my Jeffrey Simmons remix on the show tomorrow. Thank you. I don't know what that is, but I'm excited to potentially hear it unless it's an FCC violation.
It probably is, so I'll check it out. Though I don't know if we get those FCC violations here on the stream, so I'll consult with the lawyers for now.
I love it. This one we've gotten a couple of times already tonight, Brent. Parker Washington, did you see him in the locker room? Did you hear anything as far as an update goes for that hip injury?
No, I didn't. Trevor Lawrence didn't know too much about it when he spoke about it. You might have heard that. And I didn't see Parker in the locker room. So I don't know if he got out of there quick or if he's still getting medical attention, which often happens post-game with some guys. But I also didn't see him on anything, crutches or anything like that. So that's usually a good sign. And usually you will notice that. So, yeah, that was a weird one because he obviously got dinged up on the third down play that fell incomplete. Trevor, probably his only real bad pass of the day, kind of threw it behind him. And then on the punt return, I actually watched him kind of grab his hip as he's shuffling over a couple of steps to the left and then goes down on the field. So hard to tell. The one good thing about this football team, knock on wood so far, is outside of Travis Hunter, they've obviously had a ton of injuries, but a lot of these injuries have been, okay, keep an eye on it for a week or 2 weeks, or let's see how this shakes out. And maybe that will be the same thing. Hopefully that'll be the same thing with Parker Washington. You'd love to have him back, obviously, for this week. You'd love to have as many guys as available for this week against the Colts because it's really the biggest game of the season as it comes out to be on December 7th at home against the Indianapolis Colts. But Jags do have a lot of injuries to talk about. A couple guys on the offensive line in concussion protocol. Now Parker Washington. That Eric Armstead cast or whatever rap was pretty significant.
Okay.
So you start to wonder about him for next week. Where's Trayvon Walker in all this? I didn't see Trayvon on either trip the last 2 weeks, so I don't even think he's making the trip, which hasn't practiced in a couple of weeks. Can they get him ready in time for Sunday? So there's some stuff there. They get some guys back, but they obviously have some significant injuries. Everybody's dealing with it. I mean, if you look at the Indianapolis Colts, they might not have Sauce Gardner. They're obviously without DeForest Buckner, who's on IR. That's a big deal. And their quarterback is playing with a broken fibula. So, I mean, everybody's got it going on. I think the Jags have kind of handled it pretty well. But I say the good news is at least there's some light at the end of the tunnel that these guys could return. Because there's injuries and then there's see you for the season kind of injuries that you never want.
Since we're on the subject of injuries, if we can debunk, and you may not have the intel either, I guess somebody said in jest because this Eric Armstead injury reportedly happened during that Thursday Thanksgiving practice that I think Mike DiRocco of ESPN was the only reporter in attendance for, and it probably wasn't even during that open viewing portion of practice. And so there's a joke going around. I'm assuming it's a joke that it was, he was cutting the turkey and he hurt his hand. I'm assuming someone said that in jest, Brent. But in case you heard otherwise, I heard it was during practice, is what I was told.
I think it was a practice thing. He was full go, if I remember correctly, on Wednesday. Then he was limited on Thursday. And I saw the wrap on his hand today, and that's not I cut my hand with a knife cutting the turkey kind of wrap. So that's more I was playing football. And again, that didn't look great. And I don't want to start anything. It didn't look great. But we also saw, Trayvon Walker play with the club for a couple weeks, few weeks, whatever that was. So we'll see. But that was kind of an interesting one because they obviously thought he could get ready to go on Friday and then a little bit of a setback going through things, or maybe swelling didn't go down or whatever it might have been on Saturday, and they held him out of this one.
Last turkey joke, because I have to. Thank you, Dell, unless it was Gene Fournette's turkey. Thank you, Dell. Thank you. I needed to make sure. See, there we go. We have closed.
Which is dangerous.
Yes, Gene's turkey, dangerous. Regular turkey, probably not so much. Football injury for Eric Armstead. File that one away. A dominant 25-3 win, pretty much wire to wire. Your Jacksonville Jaguars dominated this one. And so we go back to the questions before we ask Brent for game balls, specifics, takeaways, anything like that. But since you guys are really keeping the questions coming, almost 500 of you watching live right now, we got another one here on Twitter. Brent, how was the locker room? Were they already thinking about next week?
It was an interesting locker room today, and I tweeted this a little bit because the Jags pushed out the Liam Cohen celebration or talk after the game, and those have been really animated. Those post-game Liam Cohen locker room deals, which have been kind of a lot of fun to watch, and I think even in losses have been animated. I didn't get the sense that this one was as animated, at least what the Jags pushed out there. But I think what they pushed out there in that 65 seconds or so kind of mirrored what I saw from the Jags in the locker room from a player standpoint. This wasn't an overly jubilant locker room. This was, we were kind of supposed to do that. And we know how to win. Like, this is how to win. And that was, to me, pretty significant. Talked to Dewey Wingert a little bit about it. Talked to Trevor Lawrence a little bit about it. Like, the maturity to win this kind of football game and be like, okay, this is what you do. If you're a good football team or a playoff caliber football team, you go beat a team that, quite frankly, was pretty atrocious and make them look that way. And they were. So that's not always easy in Jacksonville. We know that. They're not always in that position in Jacksonville for a long, long time. So I thought there was some significance to that. And to back that up with the locker room was, I think, already willing to flip ahead and acknowledge next week without also getting crazy about next week. So I think this is kind of a trained deal where, we're going to push this narrative all week, which we all know what it is. It's big. But I think Dewey Wingert said it to us in the locker room. He's like, listen, this is a big game, but it can't be the Super Bowl. It's got to be just another game. He said, if we're putting anything extra into this week, you're doing it wrong. And I thought that was, a pretty good statement, because you would think if you really want to win this big football game, you would do everything in your power to do extra. But I think he's kind of taking inside their mentality. And he said a couple years ago, he might have approached it different. But I think he's learned that, and hopefully a lot of these other guys have learned that, hey, you just keep going. You just keep stacking them. Chop wood, carry water, as Parker would say. But they don't, to their credit, I didn't see an overly high locker room. Continues to stay pretty even keel, which to me shows some maturity. Now we'll see if they can handle the spotlight in a big-time game at home and come out and play well.
I described it as this, Brent. This is a team that maybe in 22, because it was the first time so many of them were in a playoff race, it did feel like the Super Bowl. This go round, because for most it's the second time, or third or fourth in the case of some of the veterans who have been signed in free agency in the last 2 years. It feels more like, number one, to your point, this is just another game. They need to approach it, at least in their preparation as such, and trust the training that they've had up to this point. But number two, I think so many of them are focused on the larger picture that people behind the scenes are, that this is just step one. Like, this is just year one. There are bigger aspirations. There are consistent AFC South title winning back-to-back Super Bowl contending seasons ahead of them. And so this is just viewed as, hey, this is just the next step. This is not the peak of the mountain. It's just another. And I think that's something that really comes across in a lot of the conversations that I've had, and I'm sure you as well. One thing that came up in earlier conversation, and you mentioned it too, with how many of the offensive linemen are in concussion protocol. From your eye in the press box at Nissan Stadium, what did you make of Wyatt Milam at right guard, Cole Van Lannon at left tackle? I already led off with one of my biggest takeaways. Signing Jacoby Myers in free agency to an extension, yes, is important. I don't know if you're going to be able to keep Cole Van Lannon, but at this point in time, you may have to do everything possible to keep CVL around, because this is something that we haven't seen in the National Football League in at least my 8+ years covering it.
He's been awesome, and they rave about him. They rave about him in front of the microphone. They rave about him behind the scenes. And I think in a day and age where this is, everybody's kind of cross-trained to do more, it doesn't seem as big of a deal. I think it's still a very big deal. And we did a story in Countdown to Kickoff a couple of weeks ago on Cole Van Lannon, and they said it's difficult. McCarry's done a similar thing where he's played a lot of different positions, and we're asking him, it's like, it's really difficult. I think the bigger part is it's really appreciated, kind of like what Devon Hamilton did today. Those things are really appreciated when guys are asked to do that much more, come in the middle of a game, move from position to position, or week after week after week, like Cole Van Lannon. So I really start to look ahead to next year too. I think he's going to probably command pretty good money in a free agent year, probably more than you are either willing to pay or have a spot to pay, because he's still a depth guy for you, the way everything shakes out right now, unless you wanted to make a move and felt comfortable with him taking over for Walker Little or something like that. So It's going to be interesting. We're actually going, I don't know if it was last night I think it was last night, Marcel and I were kind of going through the whole deal for the next year. And, they don't have a ton of guys that are making huge money, big time contracts. That's where Myers will come into play. The ETN question becomes a thing. But they don't have a lot tied up. Devin Lloyd, between franchise tags and 5th-year options. And do they have to pay Trayvon Walker now that he's been banged up? Like all these different things. So I guess it's too soon for that. But yeah, Colby and Atlanta, what that offensive line has gone through. And listen, I thought they were pretty shaky most of the day today. And actually thought they were pretty it was clunky in the second half again. Like there wasn't a lot to it. But I didn't really also feel like the Jags were trying to do a whole hell of a lot in that second half. It was kind of like run, okay, pass, and see if you can keep moving the ball that way. So it wasn't super dynamic, I didn't think, from Liam Cohen, because you didn't need to make a lot happen as long as you didn't make a lot of mistakes to let Tennessee back into the game. But yeah, what Van Lannen's doing is pretty remarkable. And I think you might have heard, everybody probably heard Liam Cohen say he's never been around it to this degree, to see one guy do that. Everybody says they can play those positions, but to actually be moving around this much since the bye week for Cole Van Lannen, very impressive.
One more question off of YouTube, and then we will get to Game Balls, your player of the game, or players if you have multiple, Brent. This is from Marvin. What, if anything, did the linebackers say after this game? I'm wondering if that is referring to Foye and Devin, or if that's referring to Josh Hines-Allen, Dennis Gardick. So since it's open-ended, Brent, you could take it whichever direction you'd like.
Well, interestingly enough, this is probably one of the few times we didn't go talk to Foye and even Devin. We're so tied up on, obviously, Myers, BTJ coming back, Jordan Lewis coming back, and then the whole snapper thing, which was kind of a fun, different story. So I didn't talk to Foye today after the game. Usually we do. We did talk to Josh Hines-Allen. And here's the deal. I don't know what exactly we're looking at here, other than after the first drive, the rush defense got back to the rush defense that it's been. The defense was really good. I mean, Cam Ward doesn't have a lot. Tennessee's terrible, but they were really good, and that's what you're supposed to do. What I really think has happened, this was a little bit my line of questioning to some of the defensive guys. I think Campanelli's figured something out, or maybe they've just figured it out a little bit more over the last month, or even when they gave up 24 to Arizona. I think you look at the last 3 weeks in particular, their rush and cover, which everybody always says almost in a cliche way from a coaching standpoint, is one, helps each other out. I really feel like it is. Like you'll go see some pressures, and it's because Josh is pushing the pile, or last week Eric Armstead was pushing the pile. But then you'll see some other ones like today where, man, that coverage was sticky. And Tennessee doesn't really have a playmaker on offense, so there might have been a little something to that. But I really feel like they're yinging and yanging a bit better than we've seen yet this year. Maybe I think Josh might have said, was it Josh? I can't remember who, but said it feels like Campanelli's kind of simplified some things.
Mm-hmm.
So
Dewey Wingard had a great analogy that they shared.
Maybe it was Dewey.
Yeah, on the television broadcast, they shared the analogy of they took the defensive playbook from Cheesecake Factory to McDonald's. To which I would say, listen, the McDonald's dollar menu is pretty good sometimes. So I mean,
I'll go for the Nuggets anytime. But I think. But I think that's actually playing for them really well right now. I mean, everybody sees it. I mean, Gardick has plays, Lloyd has plays, Foye has plays. Everybody in the secondary, they mixed Jarian in today. He's got plays. I think Buster Brown continues to make some plays when needed as well. And again, they're going to get Eric Murray back at some point too, which I think will really help them out. But Antonio Johnson, I think, quietly has become a player that they feel is really turned a corner, because he looked like he was maybe a liability at times. And now he looks like it's seamless with the way he's playing. So the depth is being created because it's had to be created. And I think we saw a little bit of that today with Jordan Lewis just jumping right back in the fold, but you can still play some Jarian Jones and mix things up.
And Rayon Lane coming on as that third safety, which if you had told a six-rounder out of Navy that he'd be having that role, he probably would have believed you 6 months ago. I don't know if anybody else would have. All right, Brent.
They didn't plan for that, by the way. Rayon Lane was a special teams plan, and that's it. Like, they didn't even plan to get him on the field at safety, but he's really, again, another guy that's ascending and getting better and better.
Before we get you out of here, it's time. Let's hand out some game balls, Brent. For you, who was your player of the game? Offense, defense, if you want to give out 1, 2, 3, however many you would like to give out. Go for it.
Do you want me to steal yours or what?
It's fine. I've got a whole list. I'll be ready.
Well, obviously, here's what I'm going to do, because I think I know where you're going to go. So I'll go Trevor. I think Trevor had his best first half of football, in my opinion, best start to an NFL game, maybe in his career. I was trying to look a lot of it up. I looked some of it up. I couldn't find if for sure it was his best start, but I don't remember him starting with 2 touchdowns in the first 15 minutes and 6 seconds of a football game.
It was
I just don't remember that.
It was the second best passer rating of a first half in his career.
Yeah, I mean, he was almost perfect in the first half with the passer rating. So I think he was really good, and I think we've been asking for him to get off to a good start. To me, he helped dictate the football game, and of course, that was with Jacoby Myers and stuff, but I thought it was easy. It looked easy for Trevor, and he plays well against the Titans. If you want to see the numbers, go check out my Twitter. I added the numbers up since 2022. His Titans numbers are unbelievable. 12 touchdowns, rushing and passing combined, 1,300 yards, 68% completion rate. It's really good. I got to give one to Logan Cook, because I thought he was a documentary in the making today. The whole thing, if you want to just take Logan Cook, you could tell a half-hour story about everything that happened.
Is what I'm just confounded by. I said, him and Ross could sign up and be on AEW tomorrow night. If they really want to, they could tag team it at this point, because they're in the right headspace for it.
But I was just thinking about the mental gymnastics of getting a new snapper in. He told me after the game, they bring it, that's Tennessee style. They're going to bring it anyway. So there were some close calls there. He's got high snaps. He's got low snaps. He's also got the best return guy by average in the league on the other side. And and then, of course, you got all the other things that happened to him, including an injury, which he came back from. So why not to the punter? We used to have to do that because that was the only guy to give the ball to. I think now it's nice to be able to give it to Logan Cook in an effort where you could give it to 15 different guys. And I'm going to give one more last one. I'm going to give it to Austin Johnson. I hadn't really seen him do much. I was surprised on the Colin Saunders front that Austin Johnson was up as much as he was and Saunders wasn't. And then obviously they recently released Saunders. But he had a sack today and a forced fumble today. I think he had another quarterback hit as well. So he showed up. And I don't think many people out there watching are probably looking him up who is that? Because he really hasn't showed up too much in the stat column.
I will indeed, Brent. I thank you for saving it for me. I will give a game ball to Devon Hamilton as well along that defensive line, but not necessarily because of his defensive line prowess, but because of that stepping in to be the long snapper, something that he's been begging for 6 years since he hasn't long snapped since high school. And all things considered, the field goal before the half, that's all him. Shout out to Devon Hamilton. It's out there on tape now. I also applaud him because, in case you missed it, the Titans gashed the Jaguars defense for 39 rushing yards on the opening drive. From that moment forth, the Jaguars run defense allowed just 28 rushing yards the rest of the way. And without Eric Armstead in the middle, and with Mason Smith lined up predominantly next to him, no Trayvon Walker still, I was really impressed with what Devon Hamilton and that interior was able to do, especially in stuffing the run. So one to Devon Hamilton. A couple of votes in the YouTube chat right now for Buster Brown. I would echo that sentiment. Also because I misled him and Cam Little because I thought that Alex Golish was actually going to sign that contract and go to Arkansas. I'm sorry. But Ryan Silverfield's a Jacksonville guy, so it's all good, boys. I did think Buster Brown, though, was extremely impressive. And I also really liked, and we haven't gotten to this yet, but our time will be limited, but we'll hit it a little bit after we send Brent off for the night. The rotation of defensive backs, going to be something to watch moving forward, just because I think that they want to get all those guys on the field. And if it's a rotation, so be it. In dime packages, having both Jarian Jones and Jordan Lewis on the field is important to them, and then Buster and Greg Newsome on the outside. But especially late in the game when they pulled the starters, you saw Christian Braswell get not only some run, he bumped Gunnar Helm to the point that I've never seen that happen before, where he had another guy tackled and wrapped up and he bumped into Helm and Helm just toppled over. So shout out to the DBs, but shout out to Buster in particular. And then finally, we haven't mentioned it, but Josh Hines-Allen, 2 sacks, 7 pressures, now with 4.5 sacks in his last 5 games. The monkey appears to be off his back after achieving the Jaguars' career sack record and things progressing the way we thought they would here for Josh in 2025, Brent.
And Jacoby Myers, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Myers, I thought they were really trying to get him 100 yards. They don't have a 100-yard pass catcher this year, which is crazy. But he's been so good. And I'll leave you with this because I thought the relationship there is really interesting how quick it's happened. We haven't seen anything like that, I think. Quarterback to receiver, you don't usually get a midseason trade anyway, but it's really wild because Trevor, he's been asked about it like every press conference. It's like, what about this connection? Like with Jacoby Myers, he's like, oh, how many ways can I say it? Like, I like throwing him the football. He's been great. He's a great pro. He runs good routes. He's smooth, blah, blah, blah. And so today he was just like, listen, I don't know what else to say. He's a really good football player. And that was it. And I was like, all right, good enough. And we have heard this from Jacoby a couple of times. He basically is like, listen, I could close my eyes and catch these passes. They're right on the money. So he's very complimentary of Trevor Lawrence. And I think that goes a long way. I think there's something there. There's this trust there. Boom, just like that. And don't underrate that because that has been missing in a lot of Trevor Lawrence's career with a lot of different aspects of the game. And right now he's got that with several players, but specifically that's instant connection with Jacoby Myers.
Jacoby Myers has been in the league since 2019. That 50-yard catch today, the longest of his career. We will touch on why in the last dance here at the end of tonight's program. Speaking of 2019, Brent, I will send you off with this stat from our friend Ether Dark on YouTube. The Jags are the first team since the 2019 Ravens to score at least 25 points in their first 6 road contests of the season. Never say never. Even the Jacksonville Jaguars.
An amazing stat.
Road
Think
warriors.
about that.
And that is why, to put a bow on it, I led the show off by saying this, Brent, and you've heard it from people in that building too. You cannot be burdened by what has been because James Gladstone back in 2007 was still in high school. Liam Cohen wasn't even in the college ranks coaching yet. You need to just let what has been be, and you need to look ahead to what is possible because what this team is doing right now defies whatever Jaguars teams of historic years past have done.
Absolutely. They're changing it right now. Okay. And now they got to finish it off. They got everything right in front of them. There's a lot that can happen in that AFC still. Looks good, but not done yet.
Not done yet. And that's why you and Austin will have us covered from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday. What can we expect on the show this week as well as on Action Sports Jacks on the TV?
Yeah, we have that obviously 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. tomorrow. A lot of reaction from this one, which is kind of weird because there's not a lot to dissect necessarily, I don't think, from like the give and take part, but it's really a ramp up to Sunday and start breaking down early what feels like a playoff game against the Colts. And then tomorrow night we have Jags Report live and working on a couple to a few guests. So we could have several folks at String Sports Brewery in Jack's Beach tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. You can watch it on the network. And a quick look ahead to Thursday. Looks like we are going to have Jacoby Myers on Jaguars All Access at Strings in Springfield. So stay tuned on those things. But hey, this is fun. Like I said, feels like a playoff week coming up in Jacksonville.
Feels good to be talking about the playoffs in December. Let's hope we're still talking playoffs in January as well. Brent, appreciate you hopping on. Go get some sleep. No, it's been a long one for you between Nashville and now back here home in Jacks.
Have a good night.
There he goes again. Brent Martineau, you get him 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 channel with the one and only Austin Lane. I see all of your questions. You guys have been awesome. Almost 700 of you live now. Keep those questions coming Tuesday. We will be back on Tuesday. So save your questions. I'm going to write a bunch of them down and we'll circle back to them on Tuesday. I promise you that. I promise. I want to get through a couple other quick hits. I promise you, little last dance, however you want to call it. Just some final thoughts before we get on out of here because we got about 2 minutes before the buzzer sounds. Mentioned 41, Josh Hines-Allen. The move to the left side and squaring off with a left tackle, Dennis Gardick on the right. I think a lot of that was created both when Anthony Campanelli went from Cheesecake Factory menu to McDonald's menu. But this idea of him squaring off with the left tackle, and maybe it's just because of the run of mediocre offensive lines the Jaguars have faced, obviously is producing dividends. And I'm curious if the Jaguars keep with that or maybe try to move him back and forth like, the other premier pass rushers in the National Football League and move him up and down the line of scrimmage. 5 of those 7 pressures from Josh were all in the first half. I think that's kind of the nature of this game. Everything happened in the first half, and then we all just kind of waited it out, except for Logan Cook and Ross, who wanted to throw down, which is cool. I mentioned Jarian Jones, Jordan Lewis. They can exist on a football field at the same time. Yay. Shout out to Buster Brown, 4th in Pro Football Focus grades from this game with a 79.8 rating. what I will end with in terms of the wide receiver room. Yes, Jacoby Myers is your number one option right now. He is your number one option, not because he is the best pure wide receiver on the team. He is the number one option because he can play all three spots and because of how much he excels in those soft spots in the zone and identifying different spots in coverage that he can exploit, which is what the best receivers under Sean McVay and Liam Cohen's tutelage have been able to do. To that end, again, 5 of his 6 receptions came on in-breaking routes. What I think is interesting is that a defense has to now account for that because they know he's the number one option. And in turn, Trevor Lawrence has the ability to push the ball down the field. His average depth of target, 13.6 yards. That is the 6th longest of his career. He was pushing the ball downfield to Brent Strange, you saw on the touchdown, pushing the ball downfield to Parker Washington on that 20-plus yard throw. Point is, Quentin Morris had a 10-plus yard catch at one point in this game. The point is that because you have someone who is a threat all around the field, you're going to be able to stretch the field now with Brian Thomas Jr. You're going to be able to stretch the field with Tim Patrick, with Brenton Strange. You can still do some underneath stuff with Strange within the 10-yard box of the line of scrimmage as well. And I think that is all because of Jacoby Myers. That is why he is so essential to be re-signed. And I also think for Brian Thomas Jr., who, hey, let's not forget, without him, he led the caravan for that 50-yard catch, the longest of Jacoby Myers' career. Without his blocking, he doesn't get that far downfield. And I believe Brian Thomas Jr.'s time is coming as he continues to stretch the field and give the Jaguars that dynamic that, quite frankly, they have sorely missed between when they were trying to play him at that number one do-it-all position and then not having De'Ami Brown maybe being the field stretcher they thought he would be because of the injuries, because of the lack of performance. Make Brian Thomas Jr. that role. He will block for you. Never a question of that. Cortez Hankton told him, you're not going to be on the field if you don't block when he was at LSU, let alone before he got to the National Football League, and utilized that connection that Brent talked about between Jacoby Myers and 16. All right, y'all, we're already running overtime. Appreciate you guys who are still hanging out on YouTube and Twitter and X because that goes a little bit longer than the .com and the .2 channel stream. Keep those questions coming. Like I said, I will go back through them. I will hit them to start Tuesday's show. Guest to be determined. Daniel Griffiths, if you're watching, it's probably you. And then on Thursday, we will tape that episode because I have some UNF duties, and that will be with one of our friends from the Indianapolis Colts contingent ahead of the biggest game in franchise history next Sunday at Everbank Stadium.